I know what you're thinking. Yes, I am wearing the same shirt. Deal with it. Welcome back to the channel. Make sure to like, sub, and comment. And today I am full of energy and loudness because we are talking about Jake Paul. And I don't think that's really like cause for hype. Actually, kind of just did that whole intro as a hype, but now I'm realizing that this really isn't worth the hype. So Jake Paul basically did an interview with MMA Fighting SBN YouTube channel, and there was some. I mean, this reporter was basically probably paid, like he sounds like he was an Jake Paul fanboy. He literally, like, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy got paid off. Like, this guy is literally just essentially just boosting Jake's ego this entire interview. There was some interesting points that were raised up that I completely disagree with, and so we're going to put up the clips, and then I will give my response.
As his fourth opponent, you had no fights, and he retired basically afterwards. I did a little research on that, and I found out today, and I didn't know this just because I wasn't aware of like how far it went, but Canelo didn't fight an opponent with a winning record until his 13th professional fight. 13 pro fights where he got to a guy with a winning record. Everyone else was 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, those kind of things. I mean, you deal with a different kind of pressure. Like, have you, it seems like you embrace it, but we got to be honest, like, this is not what a normal 3-0 fighter would be doing.
No, 100%, man. Like, most pro boxers build up their records. Their promoters build up their records. They throw them in there with tomato cans so they get experience and they get knockouts so it looks good on their record. And by the way, no one's really watching those early fights. You know, they're not selling tons of pay-per-view. The critics aren't there to judge them. They're just letting them do their thing. But with me, it's all eyes on since day one. And I'm being treated like a world champion, you know, with the pressure and who people want me to fight. And I embrace it, you know, but, you know, I somewhat agree. Like, I want to continue to fight harder and harder people each time. And I want to make my fights bigger and bigger each time. So yeah, it's a little bit different of a journey. And I'm definitely being held to a higher standard, but I think that's helped me become a better fighter because I feel as if I have to live up to that higher standard.
This is my opinion, this isn't a fact, but most boxers like Canelo don't have social media. They don't have this following. You know, and the thing is like Canelo, I mean, there are some boxers or people that want to become boxers that can't afford to lose because if they do, they'll lose their home, or they depend on this for their survival, for money, because they don't have a future. Like, it just, to me, that irks me, and it seems a bit disrespectful to boxers that are actually making a living, or they have to do this, or it just kind of, I feel like, downgrades or puts real boxers at a lesser level when they shouldn't be at all, because there are various reasons why people pad their records, or they don't, or they have a certain amount of fights where they're fighting people with winning records, or that have bad records, you know, and in some cases they have to do that because how are they going to get noticed? You know, if they fight the best of the best 4 fights in and they lose, and then they do that again and again and again, people, the promotion companies, they're not going to look at them, they're not going to scout them, they're not going to take them, so they have to do this. Jake was I guess generously gifted with social media and already having a following, and the people like here's the thing: do you think Ben Askren would take a fight with stinking the guy that fought Tommy Fury? When, to be quite honest with you, that guy probably could use that boost because that guy seems like a pretty decent fighter. No, he wouldn't. Why? Because Ben sees no incentive. You know, Ben took the fight with Jake, for example, because he knew he was going to get paid more than he was at the UFC, because he knew it was going to give him attention, clout, and relevancy. And Jake, to be quite honest with you, isn't very relevant and does not sell the pay-per-view buys or makes the amount of money that he says, but he still is probably making a lot more money and selling more and probably doing better business than other boxers or whatever. So even then, it's at a lesser level, you know. But the point is people like Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, Nate, they wouldn't be fighting these random boxers. You know, they only are fighting Jake because he has that social media following, and they see all the incentives and advantages they will get from taking these fights, because they're older, retired, they're not as relevant as they used to be. They've come off of losing records, or they're just basketball players. You know what I mean? Like, Jake has only gotten to the, like, here's the thing. People are like, oh, it's so impressive, or, you know, that Jake is fighting someone like Woodley. And I'm like, listen, the only reason why he is fighting Woodley is not because of his skill. It's not because of anything he's done that's impressive. It's because Showtime sees that Paul is a commodity that they can use and abuse, and when he is not of use anymore, they're going to throw him to the wayside. The thing is, Jake has been given a platform to showcase what he can do. And how amazing would it be if people that were worthy, that actually took risks, that had to do this for a living, were given this chance? And that's a big reason why I really get mad with Jake Paul, is because there are so many people that are more worthy than him and deserve to be in his position more. You know, like, Showtime is a prestigious company, and like that I don't think Jake should be in. You know, I don't think KSI should even be in, because these guys have not fought real boxers. They haven't put it all on the line. They've been given this platform, and we should be using this platform of Showtime to be bringing up the up-and-coming fighters, the fighters that no one knows about. And that does go to the fighters and them having to promote themselves better. But, you know, and honestly, I'd be fine if Jake was at Showtime and he was given this platform and given this advantage, this privilege, if he had actually taken risks and challenges and put it all on the line, because there's respect there at least. But he's not, and this whole thing just irks me, in that, you know, Jake's done more and been more influential, and I'm like, it's such a bad comparison to make, like, from like Jake and Floyd. Like, he's like, oh, no one was watching those fights, and I'm like, because no one knew who they were. People know who you are, and they hate you, and that's why they watch you, right? And you've been already have this stuff in place. You can't compare Floyd's first fight, or Canelo's, or Wilder's first fight, to Jake's fight with Deji or with Ben Askren, because one, Jake was fighting people that people knew about, and he was on this huge card that everybody had their attention to. Whereas with Floyd and all these people, social media didn't exist back then. Or if it did, it was just starting. And they weren't using it because fighters, boxers, they don't tend to like that stuff as much, or they just don't see any value in it. And again, they weren't gifted with this already laid tracks of social media. So I just think that this whole comparison, it's just a terrible comparison, because they're very different things. And listen, is Jake Paul the most influential 3-0 boxer? No. Is he done the most? Is he the most paid? Is he the most, like, promoted? I guess you could say that, but you can't make that comparison to real boxers, because there's such a huge difference. And if Jake was having no social media following, nothing, he wouldn't. And you could say that KSI and Logan Paul are also like that too. So, and I wouldn't even say that, I don't think any of these guys are super influential, should be given these quotes. But anyways, I hope that rant made sense. But it just, this whole comment and this whole commentary on this whole thing just really irritates me. So then he talks about Tommy Fury. Put the clip up.
Pay-per-view around you fighting Tyron Woodley. You sold a pay-per-view, a massive pay-per-view, despite what Dana White says, a massive pay-per-view with Ben Askren. Is there something to be said about, yeah, you could fight Tommy Fury, and I'm not knocking Tommy Fury, but is there something to be said that if another guy comes available, like let's say a Nick Diaz or a Nate Diaz, that would just be that much bigger? Why not fight a guy like that, where you could make huge pay-per-view numbers and fight a tough opponent?
No, for sure. And that's sort of the thing I've made fun of Timmy for, is like, the only reason people know of you is because of your famous older brother. I didn't even know you existed, and you have no audience here in the US. So, you know, we're sort of still trying to gauge, like, do people even care about that fight? You know, is it a big fight? You know, can he actually fight? Because he's fought, you know, some guys with losing records. So is he really as good as they claim him to be? So we're still figuring out a lot of things. And that's why after I knock out Tyron, it's back to the drawing board with the team to figure out who is, you know, the best next fight. And again, like, I have to have an opponent that can draw pay-per-view numbers. You know, I can't take a step back. because all eyes are on me. So no one will want to watch me fight some unknown pro boxer or pro MMA fighter. You know, I need to sell pay-per-views and people want big star power names.
This, ladies, gentlemen, theys, thems, all pronouns, is essentially Jake's way of showing that he is going to duck Tommy Fury. Because here's the thing. Tommy Fury is going to beat Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor. Like, Anthony is an MMA fighter. Why Jake? I mean, here's the thing. Jake's going to be like... Because here's the thing. Let's say Jake beats Woodley. Because I think it's very obvious Fury's going to beat Anthony. Jake's going to be like, oh, well, that was an impressive fight because Anthony's not this and not that. Like... This is more clearer view that he is actively setting in the motions, putting the tracks down of him ducking Tommy Fury once again. Because Tommy Fury's probably going to produce a very solid knockout. And the thing is Wade Concept, Roundhouse Radio, any of these YouTubers, watch their analysis video that will disprove Jake. Tommy Fury is better than Jake Paul. He is actually as good as people say he is. And he's not like this god, but compared to Jake, Tommy Fury is really good. And he's actually a worthy fight for Jake. Especially if he beats Woodley and it goes on for 4 rounds and Jake's put through the mud or whatever. And the thing is Jake knows that people... Literally, after the Askren fight, what was the fight that everyone was asking for? Tommy Fury or KSI? Those are the 2 fights that everybody wants. Yes, Tommy Fury factually, statistically, does not bring in numbers and views. But based on the social media comments, the following, if you did Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul, that event would sell pay-per-views. It would make money. And here's the thing. Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley, if you go on the seating chart, is not selling very well. And I don't think it will do well in pay-per-view buys either. And it's not getting a lot of buzz. And I'll kind of do another video on why I think there's no buzz, because I don't want this video to be too long. But if Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury was happening, boom, it would increase more. Because Tommy Fury is actually a personality. He actually knows how to sell a fight. This just shows how much Jake cares about the money and the fame, and I know he's admitted to this, but it just shows that if you are a real fighter and you're really about this life, you will actually fight someone regardless of how well it sells or how much money you make. And the thing is Jake is set for life. He doesn't need to make any more money, and he doesn't need to care about, oh, if it will do pay-per-view buys. It will. It will, especially if it's in the UK. It will sell out probably. You can get KSI involved. It will be huge. So, like I said, Jake is doing typical Jake and avoiding Tommy. And I don't know, it's clear as day to see that is what he's doing. And he's like, oh, it's all about what makes sense and what makes sense of the pay-per-view buys and yada, yada, yada. And again, my counter to that is if you are a real fighter and you're really about it, which is what Jake says he is, he won't care about those things. But oh wait, he does, which just goes to show what his real intentions are. And that's not to make the sport better or care about fighter pay. It's to make himself money, be relevant, and be in the spotlight, because that's not really all he cares about, which is about himself. Make sure to like, sub, and comment. I'm going to probably get a lot of hate. I don't really care about it. Just be respectful. Honestly, come with actually good points, and I will debate you. I will debate you. I will go back and forth with you guys on this. But just please don't call me a biased fanboy and say all this. Actually, come up with a good point. Anyways, that's the video. And, yeah.